the actions that we're taking, the behaviors that we're taking, the breaths that we're taking, and what are all those kinds of things. So I'm also assuming that it's probably not exactly new for all of you, as it's not really new for me either, coaching through Zoom. But it feels like at this place we're in, we're deeply into it now. And in the uncertainty and the chaos of it, that it looks like we'll be here for a bit of time. So, usually we begin these with a centering practice, and I'd still like to do that, but I'd like to do it from the point of view of having a conversation about how I do that on Zoom, and we'll just do it here like this. And first of all, I want you to know is that my basic MO in working virtually with people is that I ask them that we spend maybe a couple hours, at best 3 or 4 hours together, where they would come up to the ranch, and some people, because of their means and who they are, they might have flown me someplace, but that way we get to be together and we get to feel each other. And I have a real question about whether electricity can communicate mood, whether electricity being on Zoom can communicate mood. I think we can become more and more sensitive to it and feeling mood and being with mood, but it's just so essential. How is somebody being? What is the being state of somebody? So that will be also part of our conversation. And once I spend this time with somebody, we get this feeling for each other. Things will come out about their commitment and why they're doing the coaching and work together, so that we can have I can have a through line between being with them virtually and also remembering really deeply inside myself really what they're looking for and how they're looking for it, and what is the for sake of what in all of those pieces. And we also build practices. And in building the practices, that if we say being centered, or your CT, is that your CT speaking, or can you actually contain your energy more, or build a little bit more boundary and have a ground? Anyway, all of those distinctions that we know through somatics and being in person, that there's some ground, at least some minimal ground there, that it becomes an operational distinction, that we can talk in Soma language, in the language that we know. And I think the main thing, and I want to start here, is that it feels that the importance of me, the importance for myself, the importance for you all, the importance for the coach, is that we have to really, really make the distinction that this is a representative of the person. And they have a real set of authentic concerns in which we're connecting in this moment. However, that I need to go into, if you remember, we were doing the 1, 2, 3, excuse me. We're doing the 1, 2, 3 space, that we really move back into a deeper, energetic, felt sense, what we might call the 2 or 3 space, so that we're really tuning in and connecting with the client through the electrical medium here, bandwidth medium, so that we not only can see them and get cues from them, and somatic cues and markers from them, but we have a deeper listening. And of course, we would want to do that in any case with somebody. But for me, it's always, I remind myself to really find my back and to drop in here. So let's just take a moment, and I want to take you through how I would start with somebody virtually, and especially from the point of view is that we've talked about this notion of working through the body to get present and open and connected, and that and we can call that being centered, and that we move with them in a particular kind of way where I would say, let's get present in our conversation, because we know that when we are more centered, what we call centered, we're more our mature self, and that we're probably less reactive, and that less triggered by things, and we can bring our whole self forward and really dive into these commitments and why we're here together. So, and I'm saying this in real time to you right now. So let's do this. Let's find our back. And you know what that means is we're going to bring our attention into our back. You might feel that in where those muscles in the back touch your chair if you're on a chair. But more than anything, we're just bringing our attention there into the back. And as we come back, let's go down. So we have a back and down. And so we're finding our seat. We're finding ourselves in our history, in our back. We're bringing all of our teachers, all of our learning here. What we're working with. And let's relax our eyes. We know how to do that. So I'm coming behind my eyes, sometimes the image of a warm washcloth in the eyes, but it's the eyeballs, but it's also the muscles around the eyes and the eyes that come here. And we know that if we start to relax our eyes, is that'll steady our nervous system. It'll steady our nervous system. If we're tightening the eyes, that goes through the optic nerve to the brain, and there's kind of an uplift in the nervous system. And we have some space between the upper and lower teeth. And we cough in our elbows now. And let's just make sure that we're situated, because if you're not standing doing this and you're sitting, is that your lungs have enough room that full breaths can come in. So we're not slumping over or maybe slumping too far back, or we're not allowing enough room for the organs to be there. So we're seated in ourself. We're making internal room for ourself. Letting the breath drop. And then here, I'd say, and what kind of mood, what kind of state of being are you bringing here? So I'm going to just look at all of you, call your names out, and you say in a word, in a sentence or two sentences, where you are, where you're situated as we're coming here, just as I would ask a client. So Tammy.
Grateful.
Bao.
Calm and excited.
Susanna.
I'm angry and sad, but it has nothing to do with you guys.
Beverly. You're still on mute, Beverly.
Anxious.
Madeline.
Very curious, open, and excited.
Lucinda.
Joyful.
Doug.
Enlivened
Magda,
Open and curious.
Bonnie,
Grounded and calm.
Salunas,
Soft and joyful.
Catherine,
Peaceful and excited.
Katina,
Curious.
Merle,
Solid and attentive.
Manu,
Joyful and inspired.
Tracy,
Expansive and yearning.
Jane,
Settling.
Elizabeth,
Tender.
Strozzi Institute.
I feel curious. And boy, that's a lot of pressure. Stephanie.
Is that your first name or your last name?
We don't know anymore.
Yeah. Anela,
Hypervigilant.
okay, I have everybody there. I think that's everybody. I'm in a mood of gladness. I'm in a mood of gladness of just seeing you all and having this conversation as we're in this pivot, this historical pivot here. So from this state of a 2 or 3 state, or getting into our body that way, and then having a listening. And really the state is there's a beautiful line from the Prajna Paramita Sutra, the Buddha Sutra, the Prajna Paramita Sutra, that says, live with skillful nonchalance. Live with skillful nonchalance. And just for a moment, feel what that would be like in your body. How would you embody a skillful nonchalance? What an incredible way to say and relax. Live with skillful nonchalance and a ceaseless concern. And what does it mean to embody a ceaseless concern with a skillful nonchalance? So inside of that state, however you are with that, just get in contact, just touch into your breath right now. Don't breathe in any certain way, but just be with your breath. And notice that through the sensation, you can feel the breath coming in, inside of you, in your interior, and it's moving out. Now, for all the time you've been on the planet, that's not necessarily really profound for you, but it's just this notion right now that we are already connected. Our interior is connected to the exterior. And that breath effortlessly moves through any boundaries. That this notion of a seamless world, or really a deep embodied experience of interdependence, that we might be able to see, really begin by looking through that keyhole of breath, where the outer and the inner are intimately and directly connected. Now, let's bring our intent to this, bring our attention to this, and have the intention that when we breathe in now, we're going to participate in it, so that we're in choice here. So when we breathe in, join that breath, and in the most not effortful way, think that the the length, that you can bring the length, rib cage will begin to lift. It'll come up and then down. I can see for myself that if I'm doing this, automatically my hands will start to lift. They're lifting up and then coming down. I'm not saying you have to do that or not, but I'm saying that in some way of getting ourselves prepared to really go through this medium, or actually any medium, is that we can connect deeper and deeper to the field of awareness, deeper and deeper to the field of energy. So it's just not Richard here doing this. It's really calling on that larger field. So we're breathing deeper. We're participating in it. Comes in and then down. And let's just stop there for a minute. Stop and just check in. Feel what shifted, if anything, right there. So in the Aiki a tradition, it could be called connecting really heaven and earth, the above and the below. The breath is happening. Our interior is connected to the exterior. We're inviting the outside in. We're inviting that person in. And we're then inviting ourselves to meet that person out where they are. Now let's enjoying the breath by attending to that. When we breathe, the rib cage can also go out and then in. So we take maybe a slightly deeper breath. Feel how that affects the rib cage. You exhale, comes back to the center line. Out and then back in. And again. And back in. One more. And back in. Now let's just take a moment here and feel by bringing our intent to be engaged in a larger field. So it's just not Richard here doing all this. I'm bringing the form together, breathing right, getting in contact with gravity, but also extending out, extending up. Now let's come to our depth. And again, through our intent of connecting to a larger field, larger intelligence, larger wisdom, larger felt sense, that when we breathe in, can the breath open the chest and open the back at the same time? Our intent to connect more deeply with our client, more deeply with the world, bringing in our depth to that, by bringing our attention to our breath. Energy follows that attention. And then release that and just feeling. one of the ways that I think of that is that I think that starting with my breath, I could be like this room or this level, let's call it a level or a stage. And then as I go through those, I go to a bigger and bigger stage and a bigger and bigger and wider stage. And if I do that, I notice that Richard relaxes and drops more. And there's something that's happening in this larger field of energy, ki, chi, what you call it, that begins to inform how Richard can then begin to interact with this client. And one of the things that I've noticed is that in doing this, we'll go to maybe then one more piece to add to this, is that I'm much more attuned, becoming attuned to my breath. I am just more naturally becoming attuned to the other's breath. Even as I speak now, I can feel the difference resonance in my voice. And one of the things that we want to do as our coachee begins to bring forward what it is that's important to them or how they're working with that, what it means to them is that their breath will reflect really keenly the different kind of emotional and energetic landscapes they're going through and personality landscapes they're going through. So we're attending in breath, we notice that our body moved this way, it moved this way, and it moved like this. And that we can notice that in our coachee. Is the breath up here? Is there any width in the breath? Does it change the voice? So the last piece, let's do this. I want you to hold your commitment, one of the commitments that you're working with right now. And I want you to place your hands at your belly center, just below your belly button, just so you can feel that. But placing them there also from the point of view that what you're doing is that you're taking that and you're going to embody it right at your belly center, your center of action, your center of will, your center of intention. So again, breathing through the nose, let's bring the breath all the way down into that belly center, and let's energize that purpose or that commitment or intent that you have. So the breath is deeper, the breath is fuller, and the breath is more rhythmic. We remember that belly center has a front and a back. It has a top and bottom, and it has a left and right. And release that breath, and you notice what shifted, if anything. And notice it from the point of view of you connecting to however you articulate this, not necessarily my words, but articulate that there's a greater field, the field of awareness you've been developing over your lifetime, the field of awareness that human beings have developed over their lifetime, that field of awareness, that you're more connected to that. And you're more connected to that field of energy. So I have my version of getting here. We went through maybe 5 steps there at that level 5, or those 5 doors are expanding your room. Turn on the lights in all 5 of those rooms. And with a number of clients who are lean toward the disembodied than the embodied, and might come in with a lot of awakening and energizing and acceleration increasing, is that I'll take time with them in this kind of a piece, which is always invariably first met with some kind of resistance. We got to get to something. Two, I'm actually allowing myself to settle down and drop in a way in which I'm actually getting to the more depth, the behind of what I brought in with my concern. So, and also I'm remembering throughout all of this, that beautiful line of that living with a skillful nonchalance and a ceaseless concern. I'm both deeply, deeply relaxed and relaxed in a very skillful way, intended way. And I'm attending, like we say in Japanese, zanshin, ongoing presence. There's an ceaseless and ongoing presence of concern, not concern like anxiety or worry, but like we're holding that we care. And this person's care and I care, that's our deep social conscience care. And that I'm holding that with ongoing awareness. So let me stop there. Let's open it up and make comments about what opened for you here, any questions that you have around our topic today.
This is Bao, Richard.
Hi, Bao.
One of the things that it brought up for me is I love music very much. I play the piano, and I also love listening to classical music. And I often will know the story of the composer, his biography, and the music conveys a mood because it was written in a particular context. And in the same way, when I get on a virtual call, I try to listen that way. The electrical system in that way can still convey the mood for me, and my ambition is to listen in the very same way as I listen to the classical music. And I always try to learn about my coach's biography. And when the way you have talked about the breath is for me also a way of listening. How is the person conveying their concerns? And how is he appearing to me? So that's what it brought up for me.
Thank you, Val. Thank you. You know, you also help us remember that really it was like Plato said. He said one understands discourses, one understands disciplines. He used the word discourses. If you master or are competent in two discourses, and that you bring the discourse. If you don't know Bao here, Bao is really he just doesn't play the piano. He's really a virtuoso piano player for many, many years. But we're connected to another discourse, and we can bring that discourse to our service to other people and service to the plant that way. And when we have that as a really embodied living metaphor, it comes forward in a way that really starts to color in those other spots that may not have life or vibrancy to them. Yeah. So I know that a lot of you in this call have your own discourses, and in all cases, really, what we want to do is not to feel bashful by any means, but to really, really allow all that to inform our work as well.
I have a question.
Hi, Susanna.
Hi.
Can I ask you a question first?
Yeah.
How did that little practice shift change your mood, if at all? Because I know you came in with a strong mood.
I came in contact with those feelings. I didn't realize how strong they were.
Ah.
Because I've actually, something's happened, and I've been very centered through that. But which is like, I like that, obviously. And when we did that exercise, I just realized the volcano I have inside, and the more we went through the breathing, and the stronger it got, and so I feel really alive now, and I feel, happy to be here. But like, I have that inside, and that's what I noticed. So I came in with that, but I don't think I realized that before we did the exercise.
I know that you all hold this, but I'm just going to say, Suzanne is helping us to remind us that just this expansion, this game, this set, this way of looking at expanding our awareness, and really not like we're building awareness, that awareness is there, and like moving in for that, into that place, something gets revealed that maybe wasn't revealed there. So thanks, Susanna, and go ahead.
I was reminded, as you went through the centering, how powerful my own presence is. And I think that's my biggest resource, or a coach's biggest resource. But I have a question around what I find most difficult with this type of coaching online is the standing practices, because it kind of reduces itself to 3, or because I almost only work on Zoom. I have very few clients that I work with physically. And so I don't have the experience of, what difference, kind of. I've had to work on Zoom. And so my question is, are there practices that you think are not possible? Like, you cannot do them, like, I don't know, Joe, or hand on chest, or how is that adapted? Or, because I would love to do hand on chest, I think it's very powerful, but I don't know how to do that, with online.
Yes. So this is that's really a central and huge question right there. And what's really rich about it for me and for Strozzi and for this new SISC group is it's starting virtually. So we're teaching all those things virtually. So it's a very high and exciting learning curve. In other words, we're seeing there's really actually a depth of experience that the teachers and the mentor coaches have, that we can put something together like that. So for example, you can center somebody standing. You could then have them do rocking from their center back and forth, and then do the rowing. You can teach them two-step. And then on hand on chest, you could actually have your hand come out like this, explain what you're doing, then ask them to put their hand on their chest. So they have the sensation of a hand right there. And so that they feel that. And then you're saying, I want to contact you this way. And in contacting you this way is to be able to feel or sense the life and energy moving through you. In terms of declines, where you could just have somebody center from their hips and then going, no, making a decline. Or coming in as a request this way, and then having them turn and going, oh, I'll go with that. You could have the person say, give me the line that triggers you most right now. Give me the line. Tell me how you want to do that. Remember how we did that in the course, and then we grabbed, but now it's not going to necessarily be a grab other than just going like this, but you then speak it in a certain kind of a way, in which it triggers them. So there's, in many ways, it's a challenge, as you say, appreciate that. And it's really, now we're in this moment of, boy, what can we invent here? And how do we invent it? Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Let me ask, I'm looking here, like, what would be most helpful? Like, we could spend the next 3 hours in going through, this is how you might do this online. We saw Tammy put in that she does Joe virtually. Tracy said she taught the declines yesterday. So we're really a resource for each other too. And I'm looking for how I can be most useful here. And one of the things that has occurred to me is that would anybody, not necessarily like a consulting in terms of your coaching, but a coaching session, little mini coaching session virtually here.
I'm game, Richard.
Tammy, thank you.
Richard, I just want to interject that I would love to hear a little bit more about your seeing when you were centering us. I just got very curious about, you were deep inside yourself and just interested in how you were taking in this group. And your somatic seeing and how that translates, like what's possible, what becomes more challenging, and then questions you might ask to fill in the blanks for what you're not able to see or perceive visually.
Okay. Tammy, let's put that on hold for a minute, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, and thank you for that. Yeah, the piece that I'm really attending to is movement. And what I mean by movement is that I mean the way that the body, the way that the body is inside of the conversations and people drawing up the memories of events with people and people wanting to extend into the best possible future, that those conversations of meaning and care are coming from deep inside of our interior and resonating inside of our nervous system. And that resonation will then start to appear in the person as they're moving. Just as the head may start to go to one side, it's just made that as there's more and more breath that begins to happen, that you feel somebody going, oh, now I can really rest into more excitation. I can rest into more energy. Other people going, whoa, this is a little bit much for me and it's kind of pushing me off. So all of that will be represented through the body. And it will also be represented not just necessarily in the movement that way, but how one organizes around that movement. So some people with that kind of energy will go, oh, I need to just kind of hold myself really still here. Because the conversation is that if I'm allowing more expression, more sensing, more contact, more life to come through me, then I'm more of a profile, therefore there's more danger. So you can then see people getting really still in themselves. And they will talk about perhaps, no, I'm really going inside and reflecting, and it's worth your time to go, may I say what I noticed here? And is this, do you still your energy to do that? Or on the other end, where somebody would feel that as the energy comes through in there, they love that feeling of that awakening. They love that feeling of that growing. And what they would do is feed it very, very fast and really stay in this kind of hyper alert. And maybe it's too big of a word, but maybe even a hyper vigilant space for themselves. And also we have to remember that when those things happen internally for us, we also have strategies which we call safety strategies. So it may be hard to read that. A person may have a lot of that going inside of themselves, and what they're doing is they're holding themselves as if I'm very composed. Another person might have, you're in a really delicate, tentative subject, and they may be afraid, a little bit anxious about it, but what gets present is kind of a bravado, or I'm on top of this. So, and all of those ways that we, somebody may move into a safety strategy in order to cloak or to hide the places that I feel more vulnerable or not safe or less connected, or those pieces, is that that will also have a certain kind of movement too. And how do I pick that up? You know, what I go back to in my training over and over again, and I know some of you have this, is that I'm getting some, did everybody just mute?
Yeah, and I was just going to add, Richard, and specifically in this medium, when the perception, some of those watching movement through the body gets a little harder to read. So just curious in that place, being able to see.
Yeah, so this is the place that I'm going here, is that, you know, as you know, one of my lifetime disciplines was the martial arts, and I competed in the martial arts. But even when you're just working with a partner, what's required of you is to be over with your partner. And if the partner is a skilled partner, they're not going to signal anything to you. Because they want their grab, their strike, their move to not appear, to not be signaled until just at that moment. One of the things that I learned from there is that before every action, before any action comes into muscular form, it comes into that movement, there's actually a preset or a pre-action that begins to happen. There's an organization inside of the person that becomes a platform out of which that action can happen. So I'm coming now to a place where it's difficult for me to articulate how I read that in others. As I said in the beginning, it has very much to do with movement, that I see movement of breath, I see movement of eyes, I see movement along all those bands, the eye, the jaw, the upper chest, diaphragm, breath. If they're standing, you have a bigger view of how they're doing that. And also how they're moving inside of their chair, how the entire body may be moving inside of the chair. And it's inside of those places where I would say, maybe what just happened there? So it's just so intuitive, and I know it is for a lot of you also, but it's such an intuitive thing that happens there. And the way that I pick it up is that I feel it in myself. And there's a vibration or a movement that happens inside myself, and how that happens or moves inside myself, I will ask myself, in other words, I will hold, is this something that I'm picking up? First of all, I'm very clear that it's me. It's not necessarily them, that it's me. And it's the same way that I work when I'm with somebody in purpose, I mean in person, with that kind of same purpose. As I feel that inside of myself, I will look for it as an anomaly. Does it show up again? And as an anomaly, like what they're saying is really distinct from maybe what their eyes are doing, or what their shoulder girdle is doing, or what the tone of their voice has changed, or the pacing of their voice has changed, and see if there's an anomaly in that, and also looking for recurrence. So is it actually a habituated set of gestures and shapings that the person feels that this is the place that I'm driving, I'm moving myself in my most accustomed way. And what I mean by that is this is the place where I'm at, this is actually what I'm bringing to the session, and this has to be disorganized. And I feel that really at a very energetic level. I feel that at a very energetic level. And the places where we can look are tone of voice, pacing, anomalies that happen, breath patterns along the other bandings that occur. So let me open it up again and let me hear what you have, either as in comments and learnings, openings, or questions.
Hi, Richard. I have a question about body work in particular, right? So you talked a lot about breath patterns and somatic site along the bands. And I know the value, or at least from where I am, know the value of body work as a way of helping somatic openings. How do we do that, or are there moves to do that over Zoom or in a virtual session?
Absolutely. One of the primary ways that we can do that is through the breath patterns. So you get the person so they're present, open, and connected. They feel comfortable in how they're seated. You could also do it where they lie down. If you have that enough connection and trust developed, they can lie down, adjust their screen so you can see them, and then you can have them do the breath patterns. One would be, let's increase our breath 20%. Don't push your out breath out. Let's do 2 shorts and a long. Let's do 3 of the deepest breaths that you can do, and then feel what happens. So you can do that either sitting or standing. And then because you're not there in person, you want to stay close contact with them, that they don't go too much over the edge, but they're also bringing themselves into a higher level of excitation. How can we start to smooth out this area, smooth out the jawline? You could actually take your finger, have them look at your finger this way and move it so that they start to stretch their eyes. You could teach the people to do these points right on, do them to themselves, right on their arms and hands. Mm-hmm. Nella.
Richard. So my question is about over remote work, how to create more spaciousness and pause to keep people from that automatic response of filling the space with chatter, like one space chatter. Any kind of insight you have on that would be really great.
Yeah, great question. You know, one way to do it is really simply saying, let's take a little bit more time here. Let me check in with you. You can ask the question, how does this pace seem to you? And they say what they say, and you might say, I'm asking the question because. So let's take a little bit more space and time here. So maybe when I ask you the question, you know, I've taught you, we've learned how to go deeper in the body. Take a few more before you just respond immediately. Just take a few more moments. Take a few more moments and go in there and feel what's happening in there. And then if it's a time for you to speak, you can also model that. You can maybe not just speak right away, or you could even say, let me just feel into that for a moment. Let me sense into that for a moment. So you're actually modeling that we can go a little bit deeper inside of ourselves and slow the pace down and see what arises out of that.
I like that. That's really helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Richard, it appears to be some questions in the chat. I believe Tracy. Is Tracy still here? Tracy, do you want to ask your question? Okay, so she says her.
Hey, thanks, Lunas. I can try to turn on the video. So my question was just about in the here and now. Like, how do you? And you kind of answered it, being that that is not necessarily a space that is easy to talk about. But like in the here and now, how did you or do you feel all of us? And I guess maybe I may be asking for more than is possible to describe in words, but I believe that there's a magic that happens, you know, especially from you being so deeply steeped in this work, that you can feel in almost a magical way what's happening for all of us on the call. And I don't know if you can speak into that. I don't know if that is something that is available to you, but I kind of want to hear the magical words, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know about the magic, but recently it's been really more and more people. Like the other day, I did there was like 850 people, and actually, what happens for me is that for me, it's like looking at a cloud. And I know inside of the cloud that there's particles and there's individuals, but it's really holding this big, big view of a collective and a community. And that every once in a while, there's some part of the cloud that will start to come out. And that will be somebody that I might be relating to very directly. And for me to really hold that is both, I don't even know if it's so much like a holding for myself, what I do, but it feels both that impossible really to do it, and also the possibility of we are all on this wavelength together. And I have a deep trust that this wavelength will both interrupt ourselves and jiggle ourselves to the right mode, and will also fall into a deep harmony and connection with ourselves. So.
That was beautiful. Thank you.
Good to see you, Tracy. What is that, Jane? Any thoughts on coaching when
you have children at home who might not be self-directed in their own remote learning or occupying their own time, so that I find my attention is drawn to an awareness of what are they up to? Are they okay?
Your children or their children?
My children.
Uh-huh.
Create a context from which I feel I could have a coaching offer that works.
You say, I'm working now.
Right. So that's the external, but the internal, like quieting that, creating that internal space.
That really including them, really deeply including them, and realizing that in this piece of history that I'm living through right now, this is my life. This is my life. And that if I have an internal battle with how that will look or how that will show up, it'll only be distracting from the work. So it feels like a real strong sense of blend and a real strong sense of inclusivity. And in some way, it feels really like a very deep step back into our original, I was going to say primitive origins, but the feeling of, no, we're all doing this around the campfire, and the community's here and the kids are crawling around, and all of those things are going on. And that's who I am right now, and that's what's happening right now. Now, I understand, Jane, what I'm saying can sound real rhetorical when you have young kids like that, and I don't mean it to be that way.
Oh, it's so helpful. That's
good.
That's exactly where it's incredibly helpful.
Good. Yeah. You know, I've been there.
Yeah. Thank you.
So really, I think now more than ever, it's important that we really fully allow our somatic wisdom, that deep wisdom from those, I use the word stages, really allow that to come forward now, and to come forward in a way in which, from my point of view, there's no back, there's no return to, there's no going back to. That there's something else working that's saying, this is a reset, this is a relook, and really a deep opening here. And you know, what we know about the shape of livingness, the shape of our livingness, the shape of our clients' livingness, the shape of collective livingness, is that for these next generations to live in vitality and richness and health, that change has to happen. So that's our work here. I appreciate so much that we can do this together. I'm going to read a poem by a woman named Denise Levertov that speaks to this from my point of view. Denise Levertov was back really kind of in the beat era, beat generation in America, a woman poet. She calls it Of Being. Her last name is spelled Levertov. Denise Levertov. I know this happiness is provisional. I know this happiness is provisional. The looming presences, great suffering, great fear, withdraw only into peripheral vision. But ineluctable, the shimmering of wind in the blue leaves. This flood of stillness, widening the lake of sky. This need to dance, this need to kneel, this mystery. Let me say it again. I know this happiness is provisional. The looming presences, great suffering, great fear, withdraw only into peripheral vision. But ineluctable, this shimmering of wind in the blue leaves. This flood of stillness, widening the lake of sky. This need to dance, this need to kneel, this mystery. I hope this was useful to everybody. Let me suggest that we all unmute and let's wave to each other so long, and we'll see each other again. See you.
Bye.
Great being with you.
So good. Thank you all.
Have a great day.
So grateful.
Take it easy, but take it. And wash your hands.